Hello everyone, this is MisAnthro Pony. And yes, you read that title correctly. I'm going to be doing a Season 6 wish list at least a week before the season starts. You could make the argument that I'm a little late to this, but hey, I'm doing it before the episode actually starts, right? Now, I'll start off by admitting that I wasn't really tempted to do something like this because if I did a wish list, I felt like that I would be setting expectations for something that may not happen. But because there's literally nothing else that I can do at this time, I figured that I might as well do something related to Season 6 before the season starts. Now keep in mind that these are all things that I personally believe could be a part of Season 6 that would help to expand the show's universe. This isn't meant to interfere with anybody's headcanon, and it's not a way of expecting something impossible from Season 6. These are just simple ideas. If by some chance you want to discuss the possibilities or impossibilities of these ideas, be sure to let me know in the comments section. Now, without any further delay, this is MisAnthro Pony Season 6 Wishlist. A Discord Backstory. Ever since his first appearance, Discord has gone down in MLP history as one of the series' most beloved characters. Being voiced by John Delancey has also helped him a lot. In recent seasons, he's been built up as a conniving trickster with a strong interest in chaos. He used to be a villain, and in many ways, he can still be seen as an anti-hero who's not really on anybody's side, but it's safe to assume that he's slowly building a better relationship with the main characters. However, outside from all of those things, we don't really know much about the character. There's a lot of mystery surrounding Discord in that we don't really know where he came from or what motivates him to do the things that he does. Where was he living before he got involved with Equestria? Did he have a family? Why is he so interested in chaos? It's stated in a previous episode that he's centuries old, so he had to have been born at some point in the timeline, which means something had to have left an impression on him to become the conniving trickster he is now. I'm thinking we could get a setup where Fluttershy is trying to interact with Discord and he delves into things that happened when he was younger, and if done correctly, this could add a lot more depth to his character, and it could also strengthen the relationship he has with others. I'm not sure if it's likely that they'll do this, but it would be a very appreciated step if they took it. A Celestia episode. Out of all the characters that have been seen on the show so far, Celestia seems to have the most potential that really hasn't been touched upon. We've seen very little of her connection with Luna and Twilight, but in that little time, there have been so many possibilities for stories that have opened with these ideas. We can see that Celestia has had to put up with a lot in her life since she became a ruler of Equestria, bearing the burden of banishing her own family and putting so much onto Twilight's shoulders. In the series so far, she has not been given a story to work off of that delves into any depth of her character, and what we have seen of her has not given her a good reputation. I think giving Celestia her own episode will make her more relatable to audiences, as well as getting them to see her as more than just an authority figure that's useless in every threatening situation. Because God knows we haven't made enough of those jokes. Alicorn lore. With the introduction of yet another Alicor into the franchise, I think it would be best if the writers did an episode that explains a little bit more about how Alicorns work. What exactly makes them so special besides just representing all three pony races? What differentiates naturally born Alicorns like Celestia and Luna from Alicorns that reached enlightenment like Twilight and Cadence? Is it possible for someone to be an Alicorn without being sworn into a position of power? How many Alicorns were there before we started following the adventures of Twilight and her friends? And is it possible that there will be more Alicorns out there in the future? Simply showing the presence of the Alicorns is not going to be enough to answer these questions. We have to see more of their history and more explanations as to what makes them so powerful and unique. If the writers do this, not only will it lift criticisms that have been marked onto the show for some time, but it will also make audiences forgive them more for another topic that we will get to later down in the list. More of the main six's family members. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that there should be more relatives of the main characters. What I'm saying is that we should see more of family members that have already been established. For example, we've seen plenty of Applejack's family already, but the one thing that we don't seem to know much about is Applejack's parents. Now, whether or not you believe that they're either dead or missing somewhere, we've never been given an explanation as to what made them disappear. Maybe an episode where Applejack is put in a situation where she ends up remembering time she spent with her parents could help us learn more about what happened to them, and it could also give more depth to Applejack herself. Another topic that would be interesting for this choice on the list would be Rarity's parents. We saw them briefly in one episode, and because of their ethnic differences from what we've seen, we could learn so much about the two if we simply got a backstory on how they fell in love and how they raised their children. We could see what it was like for Rarity growing up, and we could even see earlier times of her siblinghood with Sweetie Belle. There's also Rainbow Dash, whose family at this point has been very exclusive to just her father, who we saw once in a Season 3 flashback. In later seasons, it's implied that Rainbow Dash lives on her own, so where are her parents? We can't just assume that they're dead because 1, that would be too easy, and 2, we've already got Applejack for that. I think seeing Rainbow Dash's family life could give us insight into how she became so bold and headstrong, especially if it connects to how she became fascinated with the Wonderbolts and how she was moved to flight camp where she met Fluttershy. Speaking of which, there's an episode in Season 6 where Fluttershy's brother is going to be introduced, something that people thought was going to happen back in Season 5. There's no guarantee that we'll meet Fluttershy's parents, but it's possible for them to be mentioned in the episode if she interacts enough with her brother. It could give us insight as to how Fluttershy became so timid, as well as why she chooses to be a recluse. We could also see if and how Fluttershy's family helped her to cope with her shyness. I'm going to disclude Pinkie Pie and Twilight from this topic because for Pinkie Pie, we've seen enough of her family in the past and in the present to get a good understanding as to how her family functions. And as for Twilight, her family has been established fairly if you're not going to include Shining Armor and Cadence's sudden introduction in Season 2. CMC missions. One of the most memorable moments of Season 5 by far was when the Cutie Mark Crusaders finally got their cutie marks, and now their new ambition is to help others like them find their cutie marks, as well as understand them if they don't properly have a good understanding of their talent. Not only will this help with the growth of the CMC, but if there are CMC missions that take place outside of Ponyville, it gives the writers a lot of opportunities to explore Equestria. Admittedly, it'll be tough thinking of what kind of stories are possible for these three and how they're going to be built up, but if there's anything that I know after watching Crusaders of the Lost Mark, it's that the Cutie Mark Crusaders are ready for anything. A conflict for Diamond Tiara. Another thing that people seem to remember from Crusaders of the Lost Mark is that it's the episode that not only gave Diamond Tiara a backstory, but also developed her into a more likable character. Of course, people have made the arguments that she has been forgiven too easily, and this is where this part of the list comes in. We could have an episode where someone at Ponyville Elementary is too obsessed with the bad decisions that Diamond Tiara has made in order to forgive her. They might even face the Cutie Mark Crusaders and they'll bring up all the times that she bullied them, including that time when she made fun of Scootaloo for not being able to fly. It's an episode where the CMC may question their sudden friendship with Diamond Tiara, but it would also add more depth into Diamond Tiara herself. If she truly shows everyone that she's sorry for the things she did, not just tell everyone, show everyone, it would strengthen her new friendship dynamic with the Cutie Mark Crusaders and Silver Spoon, and it would help people see that she has become a better character. Starlight Glimmer's character. Let's just say that after a certain season finale that I've started to have a lot of mixed feelings towards Starlight Glimmer. At first, she was built up as a very interesting villain for the series. She was getting others to come around to her way of thinking, practically creating a cult surrounding her beliefs, and she was planning to spread this all across Equestria. We had many power-hungry villains in the past, but this one was coming across as very unique. She had her own way of getting people to listen to what she had to say, and she wasn't this brute force that could destroy anything in her path. She was just a regular pony like a lot of the other characters in the show. It was a way of showing that she could pull off any kind of villainous feat without being some kind of superpower beyond Twilight's ability to take on in a straight-up fight. And then her motivation is shifted to wanting to get revenge on Twilight for ruining her plans, which is understandable, until we saw her backstory. I know someone out there is not going to like this, but I still stand by the belief that Starlight Glimmer's backstory and redemption is very rushed and very weak. What I'm saying is that if the writers are going to focus on Starlight Glimmer in Season 6, they have to treat her with a lot of care. I know that they've shown already she's going to reunite with her long-lost friend that she got so upset about, but at the same time, it's not necessarily going to be enough to make us connect to Starlight. I mean, what exactly would happen to Starlight after she rekindles her relationship with Sunburst? Is that it? Is that the only character arc that her character is going to depend on? They have to do a little bit more with her than just that. And now that they've established that she's going to grow a different personality now that she's not a villain anymore, it's going to have to be done in a way that doesn't feel like it's forced, just so that we can forgive her for almost destroying the world. World building. Whether it be new lands, new towns, new cities, or new sentient species, we really want to see more of the land of Equestria being explored. And maybe not just Equestria, the entire planet that MLP is set on. We could venture off to that faraway land that Sakura comes from, and we can even get a little bit more of locations that have already been established. Like Settle Arabia and Mertonia, we could even get an episode that does a lot better at exploring the culture and world of the dragons. I've heard about an episode where Spike is going to participate in a gauntlet event to save his friends, but that might not be enough to explore the dragons. We could see how dragons live in packs and how they cooperate and communicate, and it can all be done without any of that typical teenage bullying stuff. A good Spike episode. So far, Spike episodes that we've seen have been either bad or are good, but for some reason have its audiences split completely down the middle. And with a new season coming along, there's also new chances for Spike to have an episode that gives him proper justice. And I don't mean those episodes where he's a side character or he acts as a voice of reason and or foil to the main character that the episode actually focuses on. I mean a straight-up Spike-centric episode where he is the center of the conflict and he comes up with a solution that satisfies everybody at the end. An episode where it shows that he's growing up and he's not making dumb decisions like a kid anymore. An episode where it feels like he's being responsible without the responsibility being the result of a mistake that he made. And if he does make mistakes, make sure that they're mistakes that are understandable, or at least don't paint him out as an idiot. This has been a long time coming, and I feel like that if there was any proper time for this to happen, it would be in Season 6. Returning characters. With Maud Pie coming back for sure, and rumored possibilities that Trixie will be making an appearance in Season 6, Season 6 could be a season where we get stories from not just the main characters or regularly recruiting characters. We could get stories that involve characters that have made 1 or 2 appearances tops, but nonetheless have left some kind of impression on the main characters or the audiences of the show. We could get something like Fancy Pants arranging a ceremony with Rarity, or Cranky and Matilda managing their marriage, Gilda helping to rebuild Griffinstone, the Buffalo living on the outskirts of Appaloosa, Babseed returning helping the CMC in a mission, Sassy Saddles helping Rarity with her shops, Lightning Dust challenging Rainbow Dash to see who's a more worthy flyer for the Wonderbolts, even a story where Starlight has to work with the Equal Four and they have to solve a problem together. Even very minor possibilities like the Diamond Dogs or Weird Al Yankovic making another deal to return as Cheese Sandwich. Bringing back characters that haven't appeared in a long time offers a lot of opportunities for new ideas to put a story together, and it would certainly be appreciated by fans of these characters. And now for the final entry in this wish list, and I know people really aren't going to like this one. Please do not rely too much on Flurry Heart. Now, I know that people are happy that Shining Armor and Cadence had a baby, and it's not really bothering them much that Flurry Heart is an alicorn, and for the most part, I don't really care all that much, but considering what I've seen so far from these previews, it might feel like the writers are depending too much on the presence of this newly introduced character. Things like having her being incredibly powered despite being just a baby, and the possibility of not being able to contain her magic being the catalyst of the events of the first episode for the season. If every single conflict and problem that the characters have to solve is a result of this baby not being able to control her power, she might come across as a plot device instead of an actual character that we can relate to. And I know that a lot of people have not liked what I had to say about this character so far, and Manga Common did a response to how I felt about my concerns, but there's just something in me that gives me the impression that the story might rely too much on the presence of this character, and I really am hoping that this episode is going to be good. And seeing as how Starlight is going to reunite with Sunburst, it shows that they're going to focus on more than just the baby, so there's a bit of relief there knowing that Flurry Heart isn't going to be the only new character that's introduced, so hopefully the writers will evenly balance out the presence of Flurry Heart and Sunburst. And in any future episode where Flurry Heart may make an appearance, I just really hope that a lot of it doesn't just revolve around her using all of this uncontained magic in the background, because it could distract from the stories. Now, here's a suggestion. Why not make an episode where Shining Armor and Cadence are having a hard time raising their child? This could actually be an episode where Flurry Heart's inability to contain her magic would be understandable, and it would fit appropriately into the plot. Even if it's an episode where Shining Armor and Cadence go out somewhere, and they get a babysitter and they find out that looking over Flurry Heart is harder than it seems. It doesn't have to be an episode where Flurry Heart is unable to contain her powers and it could result in the collapse of certain things that are going on in the Crystal Empire. It would just be a basic and very relatable slice of life episode where an adult figure is trying to babysit an infant. Instead of Flurry Heart possibly coming across as a plot device, she would actually come across as a foil for the other character that she's sharing the story with. And I know that Hasbro really wanted to get this idea out there just so that they can showcase this new character and possibly, just up their toy sales. But I am also aware that there are other people who are working behind this show, and I have full confidence that they won't make any, or at least too many, wrong decisions with the introduction of this new character. I know I may have been coming across as harsh this whole time, and it seems like I was judging the episode before it came out, but that's just kind of the reaction that I've been having to these previews so far, and I just really can't help it. I don't just want to assume that the season as a whole is going to be bad, but there's just some things on my mind that make me think that this new character could have a couple of things that need to be worked out. I know I've made videos about this in the past, but right now I just have very mixed feelings towards Flurry Heart. There are people who don't really care, there are people who are annoyed and they're really against it. I just want to try and stay in the middle because I don't want it to feel like I'm coming across as unfair. But there is just something about the tone of how Flurry Heart has been presented so far, and I'm really, really, really hoping that it's not what I think it's going to be. And I'm fully aware that there are people who probably disliked the video just for this one section alone, but I just kinda have these concerns surrounding Flurry Heart, and I don't want the writers to rely too hard on her in any future episodes. Maybe I could understand if they rely on her in the premiere, but in any episode following that one, I just really hope that Flurry Heart's character is used properly and she's given good justice, and she won't end up doing something that increases the drama surrounding her. And if you have known me for this long, then you would know by now that I really don't like drama in this fandom. I guess it's just something about the idea of Shining Armor and Cadence's baby being an alicorn that just really caught me off guard, and later presentations of her character kind of give me the feeling that I'm going to have a lot to talk about when this episode comes out. And those are my closing thoughts on Flurry Heart on this wish list. I don't hate her as much as you might have believed that I have, but there are still some concerns that I have, and I really hope that her character is used right. So that's about it. That's my Season 6 wish list. If by some chance you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to what I had to say. If you liked this video, you can freely like it, talk about it in the comments below. You can subscribe to my channel if you want to see my future review of the episode, as well as any episode that's going to be coming out throughout Season 6. And if I manage to get some resources, then I'll be able to do other videos aside from my episode reviews. Stuff that I honestly really wanted to work on before Season 6 was even announced, but because it's starting so unexpectedly and so soon, I just feel like I may have no choice but to play some of my planned projects with my episode reviews back to back. I know it's going to feel like I'll be overworked, but I just got started on this, and I don't feel overworked yet, and I still have a lot of interest in doing these YouTube content kind of stuff and doing these episode reviews of MLP, and I know that I've been getting a growing fan base that I really don't want to let down. I want to satisfy as many people as I can who have really gotten into my work, who have been looking up to me this whole time despite my past mistakes, and I really am hoping, as much as a lot of you, that Season 6 is going to be a really fun season. So, until Season 6 starts, thank you for watching, and be sure to take care of yourselves. MisAnthro Pony, over and out.